Minister, you said earlier that the new take-back mechanism would be better, that it wasn't open to other countries to frustrate it. In 2023, your department issued 188 transfer decisions. That means 188 cases where another country said, yes, we're responsible for processing this person, and yes, we'll take them back. Of the 188, you transferred 3. Can you explain that?
I suppose this just shows the inefficiency of the Dublin 3 system.
No, but it shows the inefficiency of your department. Another country said they'd take them back and accepted they would take them back and had responsibility. Your department is transferred 3. Where's the problem?
No, we can only issue a take-back request. So it is then for those
no, but a decision, the other country accepted responsibility, accepted they would take them back, a decision was made to transfer them, and you transferred 3 of those 188. Where's the problem?
Again, it's my understanding that it was not within, and again, without having seen the details of them, but if it's not within the time frame, even if there's a...
Yeah, but why did you run out of time? 6 months?
If the other country frustrates...
No, they didn't frustrate it. They accepted they were taking them back. So what's the problem in your department in implementing this Dublin 3 regulation? So
if you can show me that they were accepted within the 6-month time frame...
Oh, they were?
If you can show that to me... so again,
you can't issue a transfer decision without another country accepting responsibility. So that was done. I just want to move on. You say it doesn't work generally. The previous year, now Senator Ward suggested that, and I would have assumed the same thing, that Ireland would be a beneficiary of that we would send back more people than we would accept. But in 2022, we took back 15 and we transferred 2 people. The same year, Germany transferred 4,158 people. Now, we transferred 2. I accept Germany's a bigger country, not that much bigger. France transferred 3,311. Can you explain the massive discrepancy between the ability of the German and French Departments of Justice to implement their immigration policy over our ability to implement ours? It's the same system. How come they're able to operate it and we're not?
I can't.
So what's going to change with new rules? If we can't operate the existing rules, how are we going to operate new rules any better?
So I can't speak for other countries, and I suppose I don't know the overall figures that they would have received. So obviously, as a much larger country with a much greater influx of
but it's not 2,000 times bigger.
People seeking protection, you obviously have a much greater number of people that they may be able to return. One of the biggest challenges that we have faced is getting the acceptance within the 6-month time period.
Yeah, no, but as I said, last year 188 acceptances and 3 were transferred. I just want to move on.
You did have a situation last year where Greece and Italy stopped accepting some of the returns.
No, but these are people who were accepted, and you managed to transfer 3.
Them after
you managed to transfer 3. With regard, you said that we're not going to opt into the returns procedure because we're out of Schengen. Would you accept, Minister? At the moment, we have you apply for first instance, you apply. You have a right of appeal to IPAT, and after that then you apply for permission to remain if you're unsuccessful up to that point. And that's where the delays are. How many people who have been unsuccessful in the asylum system, i.e. been refused at first instance or appeal, and have made an application for permission to remain to you, how many are outstanding as we speak?
I don't have that figure to hand, but I can...
Minister, I asked for that figure 2 months ago. You said you'd give it to me when you had it to hand. You still don't have it to hand. Do you have any handle on immigration in Ireland? Does your department have a handle? Not you, I mean, not you personally. Does your department have any handle on what's happening in immigration in Ireland?
I actually think my department has done outstanding work in the last
I've asked for very basic figures on how many these are applications to you as Minister for Justice.
Perhaps I might. There's a number of items that will be raised today in the course of the deliberation, and I'll invite the Minister to circulate those items to the committee afterwards. So that figure that you've asked for, considering that you say you've asked for it 2 months ago,
yeah.
If that's the case, it seems reasonable we would have it now.
It does.
So I think perhaps the Minister can include that in some of the items that we're looking for.
But it would also, what I also asked for was month on month, because it's important to see if there's a trend. I mean, is the backlog getting bigger and bigger and bigger? Because that's what I hear at the forecourts, but it's just anecdotal unless the Minister gives the figures. Only she and her department have the figures, but they're not giving them, which makes me a little bit suspicious.
So note that as a request, the Minister.
Thank you very much for that. Minister, because up to now, the IPO and the IPAT, I mean, they are doing reasonably well. I mean, they're struggling, but they're keeping pace with applications. It seems that it is the Department of Justice directly is not keeping pace with applications for permission to remain. And that, if I'm not mistaken, because we're not going to opt into the Returns Directive, will still be the case after this migration pact comes into being, we will still have to have our own returns procedure because we're not in Schengen, and there will be a permission to remain. So what's going to change?
As I had outlined in one of the earlier questions, while we can't opt into the return border procedure because we're not part of Schengen, the intention is that we would still apply the 12-week rule in terms of the returns procedure, but that would be for us to develop through legislation.
So applications that are now taking 2 to 3 years to process will be processed in 12 weeks. I find that difficult to accept. Last question: will we get to vote individually on all the measures in this, or are we going to be told as TDs and senators, it's all or nothing, because we're not going to vote individually on these different regulations and pieces of legislation?
What I'm proposing is that we would vote on all collectively together, because
So all or
they've
nothing?
been negotiated together and they are all very much interconnected.
But they're separate pieces of legislation. I mean, we have opted into the Procedures Directive. There'll be a recast Procedures Directive. Might be logical that we'd opt into that. But this burden sharing in the context that we took back 15 and we were transferred 2 in 2022 seems to me that it'll be a one-way. I mean, it's not going to be the panacea. It doesn't offer the solutions that one might expect that it would offer, as Senator Ward did and as you had promised.
I think on the basis that when we signed up to the Lisbon Treaty, we made a declaration that we would participate to the maximum extent possible, that there is a duty of sincere cooperation, and I think it would be more than unusual if, having negotiated all 7 of these measures, that we weren't proposing them collectively as a whole of government, whole of EU, whole response to what is one of the biggest challenges that we face. If anybody can tell me any of the 7 measures that won't benefit Ireland and why and how they're not interconnected, then that is another thing. But nobody is yet to tell me which of the 7 measures will not benefit Ireland.
The burden sharing, given that
not.
15 people were transferred back to Ireland in 2022 and 2 people were transferred out. So we seem unable to operate the existing system. How can we have confidence that we'll operate a new one?
They're 2 separate measures. So while they're they're 2 separate items in the same measure. So the take-back notification is separate to the solidarity mechanism. The solidarity mechanism is if you have a massive influx of people. Okay. The EU will then identify, again based on GDP and our population, what percentage we could potentially take. But again, we have the option to pay money instead. That will not change. It will not be forced upon us. The take-back mechanism is separate to that. While they're under the one mechanism, they are 2 separate issues.
Thanks. I have other questions, but I'll await the second round. Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, Minister.
Is that okay? Senator McNamara, you're first.
Minister, you pointed out that it's an offence to present it, for the vast majority of people to present at Dublin Airport or any frontier of the state without a passport. In 2023, there were 3,285 people who did so, no prosecutions. The previous year, 4,200, no prosecutions. I asked in a parliamentary question why that was, and you said prosecutions are entirely independent. They're a matter for the Gardaí and the DPP. So then I raised it in the Dáil, and it was Minister Darragh O'Brien happened to be on the day. He was a bit taken aback by the question, etc. And then lo and behold, prosecutions start. And now we're told that there's loads of prosecutions. Hell for leather was quoted in the Irish Times, now so it must be true. The prosecutions are being taken. Now, my question is, what changed? Because it's the same law, same people doing the same thing. Suddenly they're being prosecuted because it's politically embarrassing for the government. How does that happen in a country where prosecutions are taken completely independently of the political system? And if the government can turn on prosecutions, well, can they also turn them off? I mean, who decided not to prosecute this? Isn't the real problem that Ireland has been criticised by the Council of Europe Committee for the Prevention of Torture for having no immigration detention facilities? They say, and they're correct, that it's wholly inappropriate for people who have committed immigration violations to be housed with general remand prisoners. It's not a great introduction to the state, let's face it, but it's equally wholly inappropriate. And we have no immigration. Oh no, we have. Sorry, there was a lot of fanfare. There was one bill last year. I think it's the House, 20 people or something.
Time for the Minister to answer.
So if the 4,000 people were to be prosecuted, literally we have nowhere to put them.
So, Minister, over to you. 15 seconds.
All I can state is very clearly decisions taken to prosecute or decisions taken by the Gardaí and the DPP, the GNIB, the Garda National Immigration Bureau are working collectively with the system to make sure that where people are potentially abusing the system or where there are laws that
And a very quick
abused,
follow-up.
that they then, with their own discretion, they make those decisions. But yes, it is the case now where you have had a number
Do you
of...
confer with the Commissioner about this prosecution?
You're eating into your colleagues' time, Deputy.
Sorry, and how is it decided? Obviously, some people are being made an example of because there aren't thousands of people being prosecuted. How is it decided which poor devils are made an example of and which ones
you can
are
come
just
in
waved
and
through?
time to raise a topic issue or
Whether
whatever you
for
want
the
to
Gardaí
do.
to
I'm
decide
trying to
what
manage the time of the committee. So
I appreciate that.
fair
Thank you,
here.
Chair. Thank you.
Okay.